welcome to my journey into the media world. I'm delighted to say, and I think it's fair to say that this is the furthest distance I'm ever going to interview someone over Zoom. Delighted to say that I'm joined by Mark Bosnich, the former Aston Villa goalkeeper and, of course, current Fox Sports presenter. Mark, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me. First of all, what's life like in Australia at the moment?
Well, first and foremost, Jude, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure, and I understand and I've watched very closely your journey, and I'm really, really happy to be a part of it. You're right, it's probably going to be the longest interview you've done. I think it's something like Sydney to London, it's something like 15,000 kilometres. Here in Australia, we've had pretty much very strict lockdown for 2 months, March and April. Things started to loosen up a bit last Friday and the Friday before as well. So we're down to basically stage 2 of our lockdown, where you can have up to 5 adults visit another family. You can go out for recreational circumstances, for a drive or so forth. Obviously exercise, which was before, but you can now start to do it in groups of up to 10. And everything being equal, we'll go to another stage down come June 1st, but that'll be looked at June 1st. So the Australian government has done a fantastic job. All the states have done a fantastic job. We've only had about coming up close to 7,000 cases. Unfortunately, I think there's been close to about 98 deaths. But the last 24 hours in Sydney, so that's basically from Saturday this time, which is here in Australia now, it's 8:05 at night, to Sunday 8:05 at night, what it is. There's only been 1 confirmed case in New South Wales. There have been 7 in Victoria, which is where Melbourne is. Melbourne's the capital of Victoria. They had a bit of a cluster at a meat factory, but overall, the country's done really, really well. But we are approaching winter, and with these restrictions relaxing a little bit, it's inevitable. I think there's going to be more cases, so we're just going to make sure that we remain vigilant.
Okay, that's good to hear that you're out of, in the last stage, but hopefully the death rate can, continue to go down. Now, of course, you're most famous for, Villa fans will know you for your time at Aston Villa. First of all, tell me about what growing up at Old Trafford did for you, and how did that prepare you for life at Aston Villa?
Yeah, well, growing up at Old Trafford, from a football sense, it was a little bit like, I would say, if anyone's watching this, like a finishing school for me. I was very, very fortunate in Australia to have fantastic training. I had a great coach here in Australia. And then I went to Old Trafford from 16 to 19. So it was like like a finishing school, like an Oxford or a Harvard, if you like. And then I had to come back, and I returned to Aston Villa, and I was ready pretty much for action. At that time, there was the late Les Sealey, who was there, who I'd known, funny enough, from my time at Manchester United, and Nigel Spink, who was a bit of a hero of mine growing up. I'll never forget, him coming off of Jimmy Rimmer in that European Cup final way back, I think in 1981, I think it was, or 1982 against Bayern Munich. So, it was all there for me. I had a manager who believed in me, in Ron Atkinson. There was a lot of good young players around that time. Dwight York, there was late Daniel Atkinson, Brian Small, the late Hugo Ekiog, Mark Blake. There was a real lot of good players, Steve Froggatt. And it was a good mix with all the experienced players that were on hand as well. So I felt as though it was a real opportunity, not only for the team to do well, but for me to do well as well. I was fortunate enough to get my opportunity pretty much a couple of months, after I arrived. We actually got beaten that game, I think we did. And then the following season was the inaugural season of the Premier League, 1992-93. And I played, I think, the last 17 or so games. Nigel Spink had gone down injured, who'd done fantastic up until that point. And I came in and played really well and stayed in. And then the following season was a breakthrough season for me. We won the League Cup. I had a really good season. And although we didn't finish as high in the league as we did the season before, winning a trophy at Wembley was absolutely wonderful. It's something that you never, ever forget. Yeah,
well, we'll go on to talk about that cup final in a little bit more depth in a minute. What you mentioned there, it was the inaugural first Premier League. As a player, what was that like, being able to be part of the first ever Premier League?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic, and I always look, back upon that with great pride. Somebody asked me the other day about the Premier League and so forth, and the way things have gone, and I said, well, I see it as, there was a bunch of players there, and specifically the young players, like myself. I said Dwight, Robbie Fowler, Jamie Redknapp's, people like that. Right at the beginning, Ryan Giggs, of course, and the list goes on. we've all played a major part in building that brand, if you like. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that type of talk, the brand and whatever, but it was important because there were a lot of doubters at that time that the Premier League would actually sort of catch on. And really, it was only an extension of the First Division. It was just dressed up a little bit more, if you like. All of a sudden, it become trendy, it become fashionable, and it become as much as a worldwide product, probably as it was before, but even more known. Anyone who's travelled around the world, especially when you go to Singapore Airport, Changi Airport, and you're waiting in transit, you always flick over and they've always got English football on. And it was always very big over here as well. But I just think, like I said, it just went up to a different level. And, there was Monday Night Football. There was sort of, all these other type of little gimmicky things, which a lot of people turned their nose at the beginning. But it was all part of it, that's all. Yeah. In the first season, it was us, Norwich, when I say Aston Villa, Norwich City, and Manchester United going, in the 3-horse race for the title. And yeah, Manchester United pulled away and I think won in the end by 9 points, but it was much closer than that. We'd lost the last 3 games. I think it was to Blackburn, Oldham at home, and QPR away, whereas Manchester United had won their last 3 games. But that one against Blackburn was a pivotal one because Manchester United were playing the same night. And we'd lost, I think it was 3-1 or 3-0. And Manchester United were kicking off later against Crystal Palace, I think it was. Was either Crystal Palace or Wimbledon, one of the two, as I playing at Selhurst. And they won that game. So same happened then on that weekend when we kicked off early against Oldham, lost at home. And Manchester United basically had won the title even before they kicked the ball against Blackburn.
Yeah, and as a squad, is that one thing that you regret not being able to lift that trophy?
Oh, definitely. That was a main, one of the main ambitions so far as I was concerned. To win a Premier League title or to win a First Division title. That's whatever you want to call it, really. And the other thing was the FA Cup, which has eluded Aston Villa for quite some time. Obviously, they've been in a couple of finals, but it's eluded Aston Villa for quite some time. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it's something like in the 50s or something. The last time that they won an
1957. FA. It came up in a quiz. That's the only reason I know that.
Yeah, you know more than me, Jude. I was going to say 57, but I didn't want everyone to go, no, it wasn't. So those are the two really that really, and obviously a European trophy would have been nice as well. But European trophies are so hard to win, and especially at that time as well. We're playing the majority of the time in the UEFA Cup. That was as strong as anything because a lot of teams now that enter the Champions League win the UEFA Cup. We got to the quarterfinals one year where Atletico Madrid unfortunately knocked us out. But overall, to win 2 trophies in 7 years still was, for me, it was a fantastic achievement and a great time.
Yeah, let's talk about the first trophy then. Moving on to the 1993 to 94 season. This is where you started to make a real name for yourself. Would you agree?
Yeah, breakthrough season, I would say. I played the last, like I said, whatever it was, 15 or 16 games in 92, 93. But 93, 94, although I didn't start in goal, I'd had a run-in with the Australian Soccer Federation who wanted me on the opening day of the season. And I was due to start and I asked them, could I play for Aston Villa and play in the second leg? And they said no. So through FIFA, they banned me. And again, Nigel Spin came in and done so well. But unfortunately for him, he got injured. Yeah. We're playing, ironically, in the League Cup. It was a third round against Birmingham. First leg was at St Andrews. And Nigel got injured, had to come off. And I came on and I'd saved the penalties basically straight away. Kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. And then we'd won the return game. And I pretty much stayed in all that season. And in terms of penalties, you need a lot of luck as a goalkeeper. But I made quite a bit of a name for myself on saving that year because, like I said, in terms of the luck side, I went to the same side quite a few times and to really pull out some saves that sort of are spectacular in a way because you save them as a penalty,
Yeah.
People don't expect goalkeepers to save them as a penalty, so I got on a bit of a roll. And of course, there was that really spectacular second leg semi-final against Tranmere at Villa Park, where we went through and after sudden death, after the scores were level 3-1, and that was absolutely phenomenal. It was a great day. Yeah,
people always talk about the cup final against Man United, but forget about the highs and lows of that semi-final against Tranmere over 2 legs.
Yeah. Unbelievable, really. I mean, we'd gone into that game obviously favourites, Manchester United win the other semi-final against Sheffield Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And with no disrespect, to Tranmere, because really, I mean, they were that far away from putting us out. But, deep down, me anyway, I can only speak for myself. So I thought, well, I think we've got a favourable draw. Tranmere were not in the Premier League. They were in the Championship. And we went to Prenton Park for the first leg, and they absolutely walloped us. Absolutely walloped us. And they were winning 3-0. And all you thought to yourself, this is over. But the late Dalian Atkinson popped up last minute, basically, and got a goal. And I kind of thought after he got that goal, just had a sneaky feeling deep down. I said, that for some reason we've got that. That's going to be so important. Anyway, come back to Villa Park. I think it was about a week and a half later. We go to a very early 2-0 lead. So we're basically equal, but say ahead on away goals. Then John Aldridge goes around me, gets a penalty, puts the penalty in. They're back ahead, and then we score again. Goes to extra time, can't separate us, and then it goes to penalties. So it was an unbelievable day, unbelievable. It felt as though like the game kicked off in the daytime, and we ended up finishing up in the nighttime. It felt like the game went for about 3 days, but it was only 2 hours and a bit. That's all.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Mark, but is it true that Ron Atkinson sent someone round to tell you to stand up?
Yeah, he did. And he said that in his interview afterwards. He had this thing. I won't tell you whether or not I listened to it or not, but he had this thing, with penalties and that, you should stand up. And I used to always say to him, I understand what you're saying. That you want to stand up as long as possible. But, just before he hits it, if you want me to make a really spectacular save, you have to start moving a little bit. But he was very, no. He was the boss at the end of the day. So he did it. I remember he told somebody, if you watch the clip as well, you'll see him telling somebody, I think it was before the ultimate penalty, to go around and tell him to stand up, So he did actually. But regardless of what happened, then, once we saved it and to run over, and I remember Nigel Spink, and I think it was Neil Cox coming over and hugging me. And the next thing I know, I felt like 3/4 of the ground had emptied onto the park. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, that feeling must be amazing. I imagine it will stay with you forever. And then, of course, the cup final versus Manchester United against all the odds, really. You halted Fergie's treble. Talk to me about that game, and was it a little bit sweeter for you against your older club?
I wouldn't say sweeter, but it was nice, put it that way. I've always had a soft spot, like I said to you, for Manchester United, because that's where I first was. So it makes it a little bit more special. Anyone who plays against their ex-club will tell you that it always makes it special when you perform well and the team wins. But we were, from being favourites in the semi-final, we were mass underdogs, like you said. And going into the final, we'd lost the 3 league games on the trot. I think it was Leeds we'd lost. We lost against Ipswich, and I can't remember who the other game was, but I think it was Ipswich was the last game that we'd lost at home. I remember, Big Ron saying to us at the end of it, if you play like that next week, you're going to get absolutely walloped in front of the whole world at Wembley. But he pulled off a tactical masterpiece that day. He played a little bit different and vitally important as well. We got the early goal again through Dalian, and then we got a second. Which was so important as well. And then basically Manchester United, I think that was the second one was Tony Daly, I think he scored the second one. And then Manchester United come at us like the clappers. They got one back and basically threw everything but the kitchen sink at us, and we held out. We went on a break and we got a penalty, and I'll never forget when the penalty was about to be taken, I'd gone on the halfway line and said to Paul Mcgrath, what do you reckon? He said, he goes, I can't watch. I said, all right, well, let's just turn around, not watch the penalty. Let's just watch our fans who were behind that goal at Wembley. So if you look at it from the TV behind the left-hand side, and as soon as we seen them jumping up and down, we realised that was it, 3-1, and it was over. So Manchester United kicked off, but I think it only went for about 2 passes and the referee blew. It was a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Yeah, a massive sigh of relief, I imagine. You mentioned a bit about Paul Mcgrath. How good was it and reassuring was it for you as a goalkeeper to have a defenders of that calibre in front of you?
He was outstanding. In terms of, talked about your interviewing journey. So I've been doing something similar here in Australia. If you've been checking on my Instagram, you'll be able to see, and even on Twitter. And I had Dwight yesterday, and 2 weeks ago we had Robbie Fowler. So Robbie Fowler was known as God at Liverpool. Well, Paul Mcgrath was known as God at Villa Park. And he was that to play behind as well. He was absolutely phenomenal. A great knack, superb judge of a ball, very, very fast, and superb anticipation, and really the type of player who, you know, I know he played at the back, but you could play in midfield as you saw him for the Republic of Ireland. He was just a fantastic athlete. You got the impression that anything he put his mind to when he was younger that he could have done, whether it be football, whether it be boxing, whether it be any type of sport. He was just a true phenomenon, and it was, like I said, a real pleasure that I had the opportunity to play behind him.
Yeah, and not only that season when you won the League Cup did you win the League Cup, but you also made a fashion statement in terms of that famous Aston Villa multicoloured goalkeeper kit. Talk to me about that multicoloured goalkeeper kit in terms of kits. Where's that rank?
Look, you know what? Because I play so well, I always judge on how I play, and I'd rank it right near the top. I didn't mind it. It was black, which is one of my favourite colours to wear because it makes you look thinner. And like I said, because I had such a good season, and the other thing as well, it was number 13 as well. I should have kept that number. That was my lucky number. I should have kept that number for my career. But I would have it up there. I didn't mind it at all. Yeah, I didn't mind it at all. Black socks, black shorts. One of my other heroes, was the great Russian goalkeeper Lev Yashin, and they used to refer to him as the Black Cat. He used to wear all black, so I didn't mind that at all.
That's amazing. A lot of people remember that kit. Mark, it's been a pleasure to be able to have a chat with you about all things Aston Villa. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with me. And thank you so much, and stay safe. Keep well.
Hit the subscribe button and follow my journey to the media world. Click the video choices on screen to see more of my work.